And this is Chris from Brothaspeak Podcast, where we interview the innovative, the daring, and the bold, providing informative topics for the Black LGBT. And on this particular podcast episode, we're going to make this a special Latinx episode. There's a reason for that, and we had the privilege of interviewing Starz Network, the same network that actually brought you Power. It's the same network that's now bringing you its first Latinx series called VIDA. And I had the privilege of interviewing two of the stars who's going to be featured on this series, May the 6th. Make sure you check it out on the Starz Network. And in this episode, I was able to interview Mishel Prada, who plays Emma, a young, smart, driven young woman who's actually lived in Chicago, but was estranged from her mother and her sister. And she finds herself returning back home to deal with some of the family business and wound up coming across a few other things while in the process. And I also interviewed Miss Maria Elena Los, who actually plays Cruz in the series, who is a enigmatic lesbian who was a mentor to Emma before she left Los Angeles. And when Emma returns, well, things that were left unspoken, well, guess what? They're now coming to light. So I'm sure you're going to see how that relationship plays out, just like I did. I enjoyed it. So I hope you enjoyed this interview as I did. This is, again, the Starz Network's first Latinx series featuring Miss Maria Elena Los and also Mishel Prada. And a little fair warning, guys, it was raining down here in sunny Florida, so it wasn't so sunny. But you'll probably hear a little thundering in the background, just slightly. But hey, everything went well. I hope you enjoy the interview. Mishel, thank you so much for coming on the show. You know, I was watching some of the episodes here, and one, I gotta say, I'm very impressed. I really love the show. I really love how things are going here. Now, this is kind of a little bit of a departure from Fear the Walking Dead here. How did you prepare for this part?
Yeah, it is a pretty big departure. I mean, it's, I would say the ways that it is the same is, with Fear the Walking Dead passage, it was a story of two women kind of coming together and learning to kind of take care of themselves. And with Gabby, she really was unsure of herself and, pretty much like dependent on a man and doing all this stuff. And then, she meets this strong, incredible woman and she learns to find herself and depend on herself. And I think that we see a lot of those kind of like feminist tones in VIDA as well. The ways that are different is that there are no zombies in VIDA. So that is a big difference. And there's no stabbing yet, I guess.
Well, now, did it come to doing this part? This is more of an East LA culture. Were you familiar with that?
Yeah, I live on the east side of LA. And I'm from Hialeah. So I feel like there's a similar like heart and blood that flows through both areas. But I have spent a lot of time on the east side of LA. When I first moved here, I had a very difficult time, I think, the first year of really feeling at home in Los Angeles. Okay. And it wasn't a time on the east side that I really was like, oh yeah, I like LA. I feel this. And, I grew up, my family is Dominican, Puerto Rican, Mexican, but the Mexican part I didn't really connect with because I didn't know. Gotcha. It's part of my family that wasn't really in my life. So I grew up very Dominican, Puerto Rican. Then obviously the men married Cuban women, so we had the Cubans. And it wasn't until I came here that something in my blood started kind of like being like, oh yes, this is home too. It feels good.
Okay. And definitely down here, when you said Hialeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I know it. All right.
Hialeah, I know, right? They have signs on the windows that say we speak English, and English is spelled wrong.
Oh my God, people, especially down here in South Florida, we'll definitely know what you're talking about. We know what you're talking about. And now, when it comes to this type of character, your character's name is Emma, and she seems very estranged from the family, which I'm sure is going to play a little bit further. How was that? Because when you think about that, the Latino community Latino families are very close to one another. Did it seem very difficult in that sense to play that part?
Yeah, I mean, they're very close and very large and just keep expanding, and you have uncles that you don't even know where they came from. So that is, and everybody's in your business. Everybody knows. So I feel like I could definitely associate with that part of Emma, being like, really? Why does everybody have to know everything that I'm doing? But yeah, I mean, I think Emma, was dealt a lot of pain very young, and she was sent away. And I think that Emma wants nothing more than to have family and belong and to feel comfortable and feel loved. But what she was shown at a young age just wasn't safe, and she wasn't shown that. So there's a lot of fear, and with that comes a lot of walls that you build around yourself and you put to protect the softest parts of you. And I think we see that throughout the series is Emma's created this persona where she believes that she can live life as an island and that she doesn't need anybody because people hurt you, people are unpredictable, and she lives in the rational world, and she's going to fix everything and make it perfect, and if it can balance the checkbook, then that's amazing. And as you come back to our little Latin communities, life doesn't really work like that. So she really we start seeing her persona that she's created get cracked and get torn down, and we start seeing what's behind that wall. And I think Lynn is a big catalyst for that as well, because Lynn sees Emma for exactly who she is. And Lynn is probably the only person left alive that can do that.
Wow. Now this is kind of the first for Starz Network to actually take on a Latinx drama series like this. How does that feel?
It's so exciting. I feel like I'm in a dream come true. When I first started acting and going on auditions, this was everything that I'd hoped I'd get to do, and I was told that it didn't exist. And it feels like such an honor and a privilege to have gotten brought on by Tanya Sriracho and by Starz and everybody to be in this space. And for Starz taking a chance on essentially a full cast of fresh faces and really allowing us a space to tell our stories, us telling it. The writer's room was all Latinx and mostly queer, and getting to have that opportunity is not something anybody's taken lightly, and we're just really, really excited to get to tell our stories because we've had it told for us for way too long.
Was this a part, when it came down to playing a queer woman, was that something that you were familiar with previously or no?
I think specifically a queer, labeled as a queer character, it's not something that I've done a lot. I wrote a short film where my character was queer, and I think also just as human beings, I mean, love is love, and we all have different experiences, and so as far as personally, I think, I've always been open to whatever love brings.
Awesome. Now, when it comes to the audience, how well do you think the audience will receive Emma?
The beauty about a lot of the writing is that it's so unapologetic, and it's just out there in all of its beauty and ugliness and flawed and perfection. And I think Emma is that, and I think a lot of people will be able to, if they don't see themselves in parts of Emma, they'll be able to see people that they know. And I think what was really exciting about getting to play a character like Emma is that in the pilot, you see what she presents to the world, and a lot of times you see people like that. You're like, oh, she's kind of icy, or she's kind of cold, or rude, or whatever. And the best part throughout the series is that we get to see what made her that way. And let's create somebody like that. And I think, pretty early on you start realizing, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, I could see that. I'd probably be like that if I had to deal with that or had been through that or whatever. So I think that is a lesson for us just in, humanity, being like, wow, we have no idea what people are going through and what leads them to that place. So that's, I really feel like the audience is going to connect with that aspect of Emma.
It kind of seems with the the reunion, I guess you could say, between Emma and Cruz. It seems I don't know. It seems like Cruz kind of threw her off a little bit. I mean, how was that playing with that type of role? How does Emma receive Cruz?
Well, I think playing the role, Maria Elena Lass is just such a little cutie pie hottie, so that aspect of it is like easy. She's beautiful, and it's easy to fall in love with her. There wasn't really much acting that needed to happen with that, which was awesome. And then, I think with Emma, I mean, it's kind of going back to that island mentality. She's trying to live life in the rational and live life where she can control. And when you have chemistry with somebody, you can't really control that. Right. And I think that is terrifying for Emma. Emma can't really face that, so she tries to not. And then, as the series progresses, as the season progresses, we see where that leads her.
Wow. That's gonna be pretty interesting. I want to see how this plays out with her and Cruz. So this is gonna be pretty interesting. How many years have you been acting?
Well, I've been acting my whole life. In church plays, I was like doing, the Christmas Carol in shopping malls and in school, and it's always been something I've loved and that I was a part of. I would say, like, professionally acting. As like this is my career, probably about maybe 5 or 6 years.
Oh wow! Okay. Wow, this is actually pretty cool.
I've been doing it my whole life. It's always been either a hobby or a passion or something that I've truly enjoyed and loved.
Awesome. Well, one thing for sure, I can definitely say I can't wait to see more of the episodes. I've been watching, and I've been kind of addicted to it. I want to see how much more this really plays out. And I am so proud that you guys are so proud of Starz Network to be taking on this challenge. So let me tell you, I think it's going to be so cool. I think it'll be a cool thing, especially for the LGBT community, kind of pierce their eyes towards a little bit. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, how you doing, Maria?
Great, thank you.
Well, congratulations on the show. Personally, I got to tell you, I'm loving it. I'm just like, I can't believe this is a really good show, But how can you prepare for a part like this? First off, for the audience, what is actually her role within VIDA?
Within VIDA. Okay, so Cruz's role within VIDA is she and Eddie actually are a bit similar in that they are compasses of truth.
Okay.
Compass side. Like, what would you call me? The plural compass. So Cruz is someone that is in the community, from the community, born and raised in the Eastside of Los Angeles,
okay,
is a social worker that does community outreach and is very passionate. Basically, the older, more mature version of Mari Soaz.
Gotcha.
And, right, so Cruz actually gets some stuff done instead of going around tagging.
Okay.
And so Cruz and Emma have a history that, it'll come to light and we'll see what happens with it. But it's me sort of preparing.
Gotcha.
I've lived in LA for a really long time, and I'm not from the neighborhood, but I spend plenty of time going in and out of the neighborhood, friends, errands, and so it's an area that I'm familiar with, and it's also being in LA is the longest I've lived anywhere.
Okay.
So it is. So as far as preparing in that way of knowing the area, it's that's how it is. What did you just ask me? Go on.
The reason why I'm asking, when it comes to this particular part here. First off, have you ever played a part like this? A lesbian at that? Have you ever played this type of part?
Lesbian, yes. That's not hard. But as
Okay.
but a character from the east side of Los Angeles. Actually, no. I have done that a couple of times now. And the last time I did it was for this thing with Dr. Dre. It hasn't come out yet. For Apple, and also someone from his past, and from the east side of Los Angeles, and so the character in that way was different than that. I'm also what I left sort of reserved dork, and Cruz is just super cool and very, very comfortable in her own skin.
Yes, I noticed that. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, now, you're originally from Puerto Rico, is that correct?
I am. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I was born in Puerto Rico, raised in Saudi Arabia and Japan. I am been living in LA for a long time now. Yeah, I'm a whole mix of
well, coming from a well-rounded background, it sounds like you came from, to come into a culture that seems very, very protective of the culture, to keep everything intact. Did it take anything, kind of a struggle for you to kind of really get familiar with the understanding of East LA, or was it something that you just pretty much got into a little more comfortable than you recognized?
It's a lot more comfortable than I recognize, and I think that there are certain things that trouble the neighborhood that is so common just all over the world, right? The sense of community and wanting to slow down change, and seeing the gentrification. That's something that, it's happening everywhere. In Puerto Rico, it's awful, especially now after the hurricane. There's so many people that are coming in from the outside and just buying up plots of land, and it's
really?
not,
Yeah.
and I'm talking even people from overseas. So so everyone is feeling displaced, and so it's something that's so common, I think, all over. So in that sense, I understood that, and I also personally, I know what it feels like to have this connection to a place that you consider home, but then seeing it change.
Yes.
and feeling like, oh gosh, home at this point for me in my life is just like this amalgamation of sights and sounds and a feeling, right? And
Gotcha.
and it's just not looking how it used to look, right? So that longing, that nostalgic longing. Right. And I think that we all have that.
Gotcha. Hey, for you so therefore I can definitely see how you could easily connect with this, because you're right about that with Puerto Rico, especially the situation going down there. Now, to have this character who's very much about her community, who's very comfortable with herself, how does that? Because you're not to give anything away, but you're definitely. It seems like you're maybe a little bit intimidating for others in there because you're so comfortable in who you are. Is that something that you had to really kind of grow within the character yourself also, to be that comfortable, to be a lesbian who is very comfortable in her skin and very true to her own?
It's my answer to that is mixed, because on one hand it is really able to cut through bullshit and just want to get straight to it, which is something that I personally appreciate and like, and I love that Cruz is that to Emma and is that on the show. Just no fronting, just open and there and wanting more and a real connection, right? So no bullshit. And that's something that I really appreciate, and I try so hard in my life, especially as time goes by and we say goodbye to people and they pass away and everything, just sort of keeping my side of the street clean, I guess I'd like to say.
Yeah.
But as far as Cruz comfortable in her own skin, that for me was a challenge, because there are things that I still want to work out in my own self and with my body and feel comfortable about, that I don't yet. And so I appreciate that I got the opportunity through Cruz to act as if I am comfortable in my own skin in that way. And so I'm just letting that now dictate or help me, right, move forward. So I'm learning so much from her and from getting to play her.
I'm pretty sure guys will be like, "What? You're strikingly beautiful." When I saw your photos,
Well, here's the thing: is that I understand what you. And yes, we women are lucky in that we have makeup and hair and clothes and things to sort of help us with that type of sex appeal. But I come from a culture that is, the Latinx culture is still a little bit different as far as the idea of the beautiful woman, right? We're still very in a novella world. And there's still a lot of pressure to look a certain way. Plastic surgery is through the roof,
really?
And having the type that I have, where, in Europe it's fine, and in different places a little bit challenging. I feel in my culture for that to be embraced and to be considered sexy, right? Yeah. So like I said, it's still a little bit of a beauty pageant idea. So I'm, and that's what is great about being able to play Cruz on such a big level, right, and such a big outlet, is that it does show that, hey, we Latinos also have different body types, and that's fine, and it's something that we really have not seen in Spanish TV.
Yes.
In a couple movies we have, but it just hasn't been embraced yet.
This is going to be premiering May the 6th on the Starz Network, and it seems like to me it's going to be like the first time they've ever done a Latinx drama series like this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So how does it feel to be a part of something like this?
It's so amazing. I feel so lucky to be in it. I mean, I know that there will be judgment and blowback from our own people more than anyone, I believe. But we're pushing boundaries. We are getting people we're getting characters that haven't been seen before, that are reflective of what actually exists. And so they're finally being given a voice. And more than anything, especially with us, with our, traditions and culture, and very machismo and everything, it's gonna hopefully open up conversation, right? And even within families and everything. So we're just really hoping that this show and the characters in the show and all the topics that we cover, which are so much that we tackle, are going to be able to instill some sort of cultural change and open the door to say, hey, this is normal too. It's not just what we've seen and what we've been fed with Hollywood cliches and all that. So I'm just so happy to be a part of it.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know that's my last question. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I would make sure to tell everyone to go out and support this series as much as possible. I really enjoy it, and I'm going to continue watching it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.